Welcome back to the Elise Surkoff podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking about paying the beginner tax when it comes to your fitness, your nutrition, or any goal that you set in your life. I want to offer you some perspective that I know is going to really make sense for you, but hopefully also make it a little bit easier for you when you're trying something new. And that is the idea of really paying down the beginner tax, or if you're learning a new skill, we can also call it the ignorance tax. So, I look at this. I remember when I was in university and I was studying for physiology, and I had never taken physiology before. And so when I first started learning, understanding how the body works, how the systems work, I didn't know a lot of things. I obviously was not as educated then as I am now. There was a lot of ignorance tax I had to pay down, a lot of mistakes I had to make along the way in order to get to where I am today. All right. So we use the same idea and the same analogy when it comes to, let's say, for example, you're trying to lose 30 pounds. Maybe this is the same 30 pounds that you've been playing around with for years. Maybe you're a yo-yo dieter. You've tried quick fix after quick fix and nothing seems to work. But the question is, like, have you really paid your beginner tax? Have you really been practicing being really shitty at something before you get really good at it? So let me use another analogy here. When I was in grade 10, so when I was in high school, I took typing. And I know I'm likely really aging myself here, but I took typing on a typewriter. That's what we had. We didn't really have computers. We didn't have computers at school. Didn't really have computers at home. I think my brother had like an older, the first Mac. I just did not know how to type. But alas, had to learn how to type. And I am sitting there and I am like, using my index finger and just like pushing buttons. And, they're like, no, you have to use all five fingers and you have to make sure that you do this. And it was like, it was so hard for me. And then the next day I would go back and do it again. And this took me a really long time, but I do remember when I got a computer and when I started to use typing every single day, it became so easy. And I remember thinking, how the hell am I going to teach this to my kids? When I started having kids, I remember thinking, like, how am I going to teach them typing? Like, typing is really hard. I have 3 kids that I have never taught typing to. And you're probably like, well, duh, because kids know how to type better than we do. It's like, how? Because they've practiced at a young age. By the time they get their own computer and they're in school, you're not teaching kids how to type because they've been doing it for so long. They have paid their beginner tax when they were kids. I started paying my beginner tax when I was a late teen and early into my 20s. So obviously it took me a lot longer. All right. Another example that's, I think I always use this analogy, but is the guitar. I bought a guitar. I used to play the guitar when I was a kid. Like, I played it at camp and I learned how to play one summer and I learned how to play More Than Words. And it's the only song I could sing. And ever since, I was like just obsessed with kind of trying to figure out if I could, learn more songs. And so I think I actually remember exactly when it was. It was for Hanukkah in 2020. I bought myself a guitar from Costco. And I would kept telling Albert every year, I really want this guitar. And he's like, the hell are you going to do with a guitar? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to learn how to play it. And so what better opportunity to play it than in COVID? So I bought myself a guitar in November 2020. And I was teaching myself how to play again on YouTube videos for about 4 weeks until I started my business. I started my business the end of November 2020, and I haven't picked up a guitar since. But I was like, oh, this should be really easy because I used to play More Than Words. So there's no way that I won't remember that song. And I picked up that guitar and I was like, fuck, I can't remember anything. I am learning again. And I had to pay that beginner tax all over again. Now, you wouldn't expect to pick up a guitar if you've never picked one up before and all of a sudden start playing More Than Words or any song that you might want to play. You are not expected. You're like, I'm going to have to learn it. I'm going to have to practice it every single day. I'm going to have to practice sucking at it. Okay. Because you don't just start and it all of a sudden sounds amazing. All right. So the same is true when it comes to those 30 pounds. If you have always been yo-yo dieting, then you've always quit. You haven't paid the beginner tax. So if you've never done coaching before, this is what is so amazing and brilliant about coaching is that we help you learn how to pay that beginner tax down so that you can get better at it. So what does that mean? It means before you succeed, you're going to have to fail. I'm going to repeat that again. Before you succeed, you're going to have to fail, and you're going to have to fail enough times that I don't even want to say a mistake. It's not a habit that you are repeating anymore because you're learning from it and getting better. Again, I say this pretty much every single episode. It took me 4 years to stop eating like an asshole on the weekends. Why? I went super slow. When I first started, I was like, oh, I can't eat everything. I'm going to eat nothing. And then I did that until that felt too restrictive. And then I went back to eating everything and eating like an asshole again. And then I thought, I don't like how that feels. Let me try, instead of, eating nothing, to eat a little bit and see how that feels. And so it took a lot of time to pay my beginner tax down. And I've created a whole program so that you don't have to spend 4 years doing that. Obviously, we can make that go a little bit faster now. However, the point is still that you have to know what it's like to say no to things. This is why those who start their transformation at the busiest, most hectic time for them, maybe it's around holidays, Christmas, maybe it's around summer, maybe it's around your birthday, whenever it is that you feel that things are the most chaotic, that is the best time to start paying your beginner tax down. So let's say, for example, that, every Friday night you have a big family dinner, or every Sunday night, whatever it is, you have a really big family dinner. And you're now like, I'm going to lose 30 pounds and I'm not going to eat like that anymore. Well, you're going to have to practice every Friday night going out to your family dinner and eating differently and choosing differently and failing. So like when you go ahead on that Friday night and you're like, fuck, I did it again, I overate. Instead of saying, fuck it, what the hell, I'm done and I'm yo-yo dieting and now I'm off the train track. Instead, you're going to learn that and say, okay, this is part of the beginner tax. And next week when I go back, I'm going to do one thing a little bit different. And this is what we have our clients do in our program at FFWEs. We set smaller goals that are way more attainable. So it's like, hey, all right, next time you go for a family dinner, I want you to only build your plate once. And when you're done, I want you to clear it and clear someone else's too. Let's help the hostess out a little bit. Let's just do that, see how that feels. So that every time you're going, you're doing something a little bit different. But remember, it's just like when you pick up that guitar, when I'm starting to type, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to have a note that sounds really horrible. And then I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to pay down the beginner tax. So it's not as easy as just like picking up something and being perfect at it. So I look at it also like playing pickleball. A lot of us love playing pickleball now. I feel like pickleball is like the newest sport. It's so fun. It's something that, every age can do. And my kids love it. We enjoy it. Everyone loves it. But you can't just pick it up and expect to be amazing at it. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And like my parents right now play pickleball all the time. So they're like kicking our ass. If we play pickleball maybe 1 or 2, 3 times a year right now. And my parents are playing every single week. So we go play my parents and they kick our ass, and as they should, because they've been practicing for longer. It would be so naive of me to think that I'm going to pick up a pickleball racket and somehow be better than someone who has been doing this for a while. So a lot of times people will look at me and say, wow, Elise, I want to have your physique. I want to build muscle. I want to be tight and lean in my late 40s like you. And I'm like, it took me decades to get here. It took me years of habit training to get here. It took me years of physical training to get here. It would be naive to think that in 3 months, I'm going to transform you to look like me. I can help transform your habits and set you up on the way, but you're going to have to be paying a lot of beginner tax along the way. And that's okay, because that's how we get good at any skill. You can never compare your month 1 to someone's month 100, or your first year to someone's, year 10. And what I always say is, whenever you're learning a new skill, or when you're working on a physique goal, maybe it's you want to lose weight, maybe you're trying to optimize your hormonal function, maybe you're trying to build muscle, whatever it is, give yourself a full year. Why? Because you have to go through every single cycle and season of a year, the highs, the lows, the goods, the bads, the holidays, the snow days, the sunny days, the rainy days, and know how to pay your beginner tax at every single level. This is the only way that you're going to get good at something. And you wouldn't expect to be amazing at something without learning how to do it and kind of sucking at it first. So, for example, whenever my kids are learning a new skill, which obviously kids are, right? Because they're just finding their way in the world. They're trying new things. I always say, like, when they're like, oh, I just sucked at this test, or I fucked up. I mean, they don't always drop the F bomb, but sometimes we do. So they might say, like, I fucked up my math test, or I messed up on my hockey game, or whatever it is. We're a big hockey family here. Everyone thinks they're going to the NHL. And I'm like, you're not going to go to the NHL based on being 11 years old, right? Like no one ever recruited from the NHL at 11 and said, hey, you're amazing, let's go. You have to put in the reps, you have to do it. So when they lose a game or when they fail a test, I'm like, amazing, you're paying your beginner tax, you're paying it down. The more you can suck at something at the beginning, the better you're going to get faster. So the more you suck at practicing whatever you're doing, losing 30 pounds, the more that you suck at it, amazing, high five. You're going to get better at continuing to do it as long as you don't quit. This is the beginner tax, and this is true of any new skill, and that includes the new goal that you're working towards. So instead of saying, I fucked up, fuck it, I'm done, I'm out, I'm going to slash all 3 other tires because I messed up, that's part of your beginner tax. Enjoy it. Congratulations. You're human. Get back up and keep fucking going. That is the only way you're going to get results. I hope that this was helpful for you, and that if nothing else, it puts things into perspective. So don't expect that day one of doing something, you're going to be amazing at it. Likely you're going to have a lot of motivation day one, but by 7/14, that motivation is going to be gone, and you're going to rely on the beginner tax to really help get you going. All right, I would love it if you could reach out to me and let me know how this lands. Big hugs if you can give this episode a review or share it with a friend. And as always, you can learn more about me and how we help women in perimenopause and menopause on Instagram at functionallyfitwithelise.com, or Facebook, same thing, or my website, same thing. We got a lot of freebies on the website. You can also check me out on YouTube. I got a YouTube channel with this episode and every other podcast episode that is in full video form. So if you're someone that is more visual and wants to see my face talking, then go ahead and give that a listen. And then, of course, let me know how that lands for you. I will speak to you on the next one.